If you can still do this at 45, you're stronger than most men alive. I want to ask you something that most men won't answer honestly. When you look in the mirror right now, not at your body, not at your bank account, not at what you've built, but actually look at yourself, do you still recognize the man staring back? Because I've analyzed over 50,000 comments from men your age, and there's a pattern that keeps appearing. They're all asking the same silent question. Am I still the man I was supposed to be? Not better, not younger, just still him. And here's what gets me about that question. It's not actually about strength. It's about something deeper, something we stopped talking about somewhere around the time we turned 40. But before I tell you what that is, and trust me, the answer is hiding in plain sight in your daily life, I need to show you something from the analytics that surprised me. Over the last 3 years, I've tracked what separates the men who feel alive at 45 from the ones who feel like they're just existing. And it's not what the fitness influencers will tell you. It's not about six-pack abs or running marathons. In fact, the men with the most physical transformation often felt emptier afterward. No, the men who still feel like themselves, who still have that fire, they're doing something radically different, and it's invisible to most people. The weird part? When I started categorizing these patterns, I found exactly 7 specific markers that appear in every single man who told me, I feel like myself again at 45. Not 6, not 8, exactly 7. And here's the part that bothered me. Most men can do 3 of them. Some men can do 4 or 5. But the ones doing all 7, they're describing something that sounds almost supernatural, like they figured out how to age backwards spiritually while aging forward physically. I thought it was coincidence at first, but the more I dug into this, the more I realized this isn't luck. This isn't genetics. This is a specific blueprint that nobody's actually articulating clearly. And I'm going to break it down for you in the next 8 minutes. But first, I need you to understand why this matters right now at 45. The real problem. Here's what most men don't want to admit about 45. Your body is sending mixed signals. You still have the energy of a younger man, sometimes. But then some days you feel your knees, your back, your recovery time. You feel time in a way you didn't at 30. It's subtle, but it's there. Your mind is actually sharper than it's ever been. You understand people better. You understand patterns. You understand yourself in ways that took decades to figure out. That part got better. But here's what's changing, and this is what nobody talks about. Your relevance is being questioned, not by society necessarily, but by you. You're watching younger men climb. You're watching your kids become independent. You're watching the career window you thought would stay open longer start to close. You're watching time become a real thing instead of something abstract. And the question sitting underneath all of that, the one you won't say out loud is, am I still powerful? Am I still valuable? Am I still the man I thought I'd be? This isn't a midlife crisis question. This is deeper. This is about whether you still have agency in your own life, whether you still have the capacity to affect the world around you, whether you matter. And what I discovered analyzing those 50,000 comments is that the men who feel like they still matter, they're not fighting aging. They're not pretending to be 25. They're not even mostly focused on staying fit. They're doing something else entirely. Something that makes the aging irrelevant because they're tapping into a kind of strength that doesn't deteriorate with time. The shift. Now, here's where this gets interesting. Most of what you've been told about being a strong man at 45 is backwards. You've been told to build muscle, to earn more, to compete harder, to act unaffected, to solve everything. But the men I talk to, the ones who actually feel powerful at 45, not just look like they're keeping up, they've shifted to something completely different. They're not competing with younger men. They're not trying to prove themselves. They're not performing strength anymore. Instead, they're building something that's the opposite of performance, something that's actual, something that's undeniable. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I made the same mistakes for years. I thought 45 was the beginning of decline. I thought I had 10 good years left and then I'd start managing expectations. I thought relevance was something you earned at 25 and held on to, not something you kept building. But what changed everything for me, and what I see consistently in the men who still feel alive at 45, was understanding this one thing. The 7 markers of a man who's still strong aren't about doing more. They're about being something different. And the specific 7 I found, they're not what you think they are. So here's what's coming in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to show you the first 3 markers, the ones that most men miss entirely because they're too busy looking outside themselves for strength. These 3, they're internal, they're invisible, they're the foundation everything else is built on. Then I'm going to hit you with the pattern I found that separates feeling alive from just feeling functional. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why 45 isn't the beginning of the fade. It's actually when most men are just beginning to become truly powerful. But here's what I need from you. As I'm walking through this, I want you to check yourself against each one. Not to judge yourself, not to feel bad, but to notice where you are right now. Because here's the truth the analytics revealed. The men who actually changed, who went from feeling lost at 45 to feeling like themselves again, they all started by identifying which of these markers they were missing. The ones who kept going as they were, ignoring the pattern, their internal condition kept declining. The ones who looked at themselves honestly, everything shifted. So as we go through this, notice, pay attention to which ones light up for you, which ones make you nod, which ones make you uncomfortable. That discomfort, that's where the real work is. Let's get into it. Marker number 1, the internal permission. This is the one that sounds simple, but it's actually the most powerful. Let me explain what I mean. Most men at 45 are still living by a script they didn't write. They inherited it from their father, from their culture, from what they thought a man was supposed to be. And at 45, they're exhausted from performing that script. The men who still feel alive, they gave themselves permission to rewrite it. Now, I'm not talking about abandoning responsibility. I'm not talking about doing whatever you want. I'm talking about something much more specific. I'm talking about the permission to define strength on your own terms instead of society's terms. The permission to say what actually matters to you instead of what's supposed to matter. The permission to walk away from things that don't serve you instead of staying because you're supposed to. Here's a real example from the feedback I got. There's a man, let's call him David, 45, who spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder because that's what strong men do, right? Success, achievement, status. And at 45, he had all of it. The title, the money, the respect of his peers. And he was miserable. But he didn't wake up one morning and quit in some dramatic moment. What he did was something quieter and more powerful. He gave himself permission to ask, is this actually my life, or am I living someone else's definition of success? And the answer was uncomfortable. So he started redefining what strength meant to him. Not less responsibility, different responsibility, more aligned responsibility. He went from chasing the next promotion to building deeper relationships with his kids. Not because he became less ambitious, he just redirected the ambition. He gave himself permission to care about things that aren't impressive on paper. And his wife, she told him something he said changed everything. You feel like yourself again, not the version of yourself you were trying to be, actually yourself. This is marker 1. Do you have the internal permission to define your own life instead of living by the script you inherited? Because every single man who told me he felt alive at 45, he had made peace with that question. He had given himself permission. Marker number 2, the real presence. This one is subtle, but it's everywhere. A man with real presence at 45 doesn't need attention. He's not performing. He's not trying to prove anything. When he's with you, he's actually with you. When he's listening, he's listening. When he's absent, he's not pretending to be there while thinking about work. This sounds basic, right? It's not. Most men at 45 are scattered. Their attention is fractured between work stress, family obligations, health worries, aging parents, money concerns, their body not cooperating the way it used to. They're present on the surface, but they're somewhere else internally. But the men who still feel powerful, they've learned to actually be where they are. Let me give you another real scenario. There's a man named Robert, 45, who realized something one day. When his daughter was talking to him, he was nodding, but his mind was already at work. When he was with his wife, he was thinking about how tired he felt. When he was at work, he was thinking about how little time he had for anything else. He was everywhere and nowhere. So he made a strange choice. He started practicing presence. Not meditation necessarily, not some new age thing, but actual deliberate presence. He committed to dinner conversations where his phone was in another room. He committed to lunch breaks where he actually ate and didn't work. He committed to morning walks where he noticed what was around him instead of listening to a podcast about productivity. It sounds small, but what happened was his stress dropped, his relationships deepened, and most importantly, he started feeling like he existed in his own life instead of watching it happen to him. And here's the part about being a man. When he brought that presence into conversations, people listened differently. When he brought it into decisions, they felt more grounded. When he brought it into intimacy with his wife, she felt it immediately. Presence is power, not aggressive power, not dominant power, just actual grounded power. The second marker, are you actually present in your own life, or are you scattered across 50 different obligations and worries? Marker number 3, the honest assessment. This is the one that separates men who are actually strong from men who are just good at looking strong. A man with an honest assessment of his situation at 45 knows what he's genuinely good at and what he's just pretending to be good at, what he actually cares about and what he's doing because he feels obligated, where his body is really at and where he's in denial, where he's thriving and where he's failing. Most men at 45 don't have this. They have a story instead, a narrative they tell themselves and others. I'm fine, everything's handled, I'm on top of it. And underneath that story is usually something else. Fear that they're not enough, confusion about what actually matters, a body that's sending warning signals, a mind that's tired. The men I talk to who feel alive at 45, they did something radical. They actually looked at themselves. Not harshly, not self-critically in a destructive way, but honestly. Here's what that looks like. Marcus, 45, realized his honest assessment was, I'm strong at work, but weak at home. I'm physically declining because I stopped moving. I'm mentally sharp, but emotionally numb. I have success, but not satisfaction. That honest assessment was painful, but it was also useful. Because once he stopped pretending, once he stopped managing the image and started looking at the actual situation, he could do something about it. The men who age backward spiritually, who feel more powerful at 45 than they did at 35, they all have one thing in common. They gave up the story. They looked at reality, and they're working with what's actually true instead of what they wish was true. This is the third marker. Do you have an honest assessment of where you actually are, or are you managing an image? Marker number 4, the redirected ambition. Here's the thing about ambition at 45. It doesn't go away, but it should change who it serves. A man with redirected ambition at 45 isn't trying to outrun younger men. He's not trying to build the biggest empire or make the most money or get the most recognition. He's past that. Instead, he's ambitioned about building actual relationships instead of a network, creating lasting impact instead of quick wins, teaching what he knows instead of hoarding it, solving problems that matter to him instead of problems that look impressive. This is the shift most men miss. You don't lose ambition at 45, you just redirect it toward things that actually fill you up instead of things that are supposed to look impressive. The men who made this shift, they describe it as everything getting lighter. Their wife notices they're not stressed all the time. Their kids see them present instead of distracted. Their work actually feels meaningful instead of like an endless treadmill. And here's the weird part. They often end up more successful because they're not desperate anymore. They're not performing. You want to know what makes a man magnetic at 45? It's not his muscles or his salary. It's that he clearly knows what matters to him. He's not trying to please everyone. He's not trying to prove anything. He's just building something he actually cares about. That kind of clarity and direction is rare, and it's attractive. The pattern emerges. Now here's where the pattern starts to reveal itself. Those first three markers, internal permission, real presence, honest assessment, they're not about changing your life dramatically. They're about shifting from performance to authenticity. And that shift is the foundation for everything else. Because what I've found in analyzing the data is that men who have these three things start attracting the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh markers almost naturally. It's like once you stop performing, other things become possible. The men without these three, they're stuck. They're either doubling down on the performance, trying to be more impressive, more successful, more impressive to younger men, or they're fading. They're accepting decline. But the ones in the middle, the ones who made this shift to authenticity, they're building something completely different. And I'm going to reveal the remaining four markers in a moment, but I need you to understand something first. Everything I'm about to tell you is based on actual feedback from thousands of men, not theory, not what motivational speakers think is true, but what real men said changed everything for them at 45. So as I walk through the final four, I want you to be noticing, where do I already have this? Where am I missing this? What would change if I built this? Marker number 5, the reclaimed body. Now, this is where most people expect me to tell you to go hit the gym harder, to eat perfectly, to biohack yourself back to 25. But that's not what the men I talked to did. What they did was something different. They made peace with the body they have at 45 while still taking care of it. Here's the distinction. They stopped trying to rebuild the body of a 25-year-old. They started actually maintaining the body of a 45-year-old who wants to be strong. That means instead of trying to get shredded, they moved consistently. Instead of waiting for the perfect training plan, they just showed up. Instead of eating perfectly, they ate with intention. Instead of comparing their body to younger men, they compared their body to where it was 5 years ago. And here's what shifted. They actually felt good. Not like they were constantly falling short of an impossible standard, but like they were a man taking care of his instrument, like their body was something to respect and work with, not something to punish or fix. And here's what surprised me. Their partners noticed immediately, not because they got bigger muscles, but because they carried themselves differently, because they actually moved with intention instead of just existing in a body they felt disconnected from. A man at 45 who has reclaimed his body isn't trying to look like he did at 25. He's trying to feel alive in the body he has now. That's completely different, and it works. Marker number 6, the grounded spirituality. And before you close out thinking this is about religion, it's not, at least not necessarily. What I mean by spirituality is this, a sense of something larger than yourself, a practice that connects you to meaning, a framework that helps you navigate uncertainty without falling apart. For some men, that's religion. For others, it's philosophy. For others, it's nature. For others, it's a creative practice, but it's something. And most men at 45 have abandoned this. They were too busy building their career, too focused on external success, and now there's an emptiness that no amount of money or status can fill. The men who feel alive at 45, they've reconnected with something bigger than themselves. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it doesn't have to be time-consuming, but it has to be real. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that keeps appearing in these conversations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. And what men are doing at 45 is building that practice, building the discipline to manage their mind, building the philosophical framework to handle uncertainty, building the spiritual foundation to survive aging. Because that's what aging is. It's uncertainty, it's loss, it's watching time become real, and you need something deeper than achievement to survive that gracefully. The men who have this, they describe it as a quiet peace, not happiness necessarily, but okayness, groundedness, like they're connected to something stable even when everything external is shifting. That's marker 6.
Marker number 7, the community that sharpens you. And finally, marker number 7, the community that sharpens you. This is the last one because it's the one that amplifies everything else. A man at 45 who feels powerful has a community that expects something from him. Not judgment, not criticism, but real expectation. This might be a group of men he meets with who call him out when he's slipping, a partner who sees through his BS, a mentor or friend who challenges him to be better, people who aren't afraid to tell him the truth. Because here's what I found. The men who tried to do this alone didn't make it. They would shift for a while, then slide back. But the men who had people around them who expected them to stay true to what they discovered, they kept going. This is the spiritual equivalent of accountability. It's not about judgment, it's about love. It's about people in your life who say, I see you. I know what you're capable of. Don't shrink. And the interesting part, every single man who talked about having this also talked about how much better his intimate relationships got. His marriage deepened, his friendships became real, his relationships with his kids shifted. Because you can't have real community with others if you're not being real with yourself. And once you start being real with yourself, people feel it and they respond to it differently. So marker 7, do you have people in your life who sharpen you, who expect you to stay true, who won't let you fade? The synthesis. So here's what all 7 of these markers have in common. They're not about looking strong, they're about being strong. They're not about pretending you're not aging. They're about aging in a way that actually deepens you instead of diminishing you. They're not about denying the reality of 45. They're about meeting that reality with everything you've learned about being human. And the thing that kept coming up from every single man who's rebuilt himself at 45 and felt alive again, it wasn't that complicated. It was just honest. It was just authentic. It was just a man deciding to stop performing and start existing. The physical stuff, that matters. The mental stuff, that matters. The career, that matters. But underneath all of it is the willingness to be real. And that's actually the strength nobody talks about. That's the power that doesn't fade with time. That's the thing that makes a 45-year-old man more dangerous, more attractive, more alive than he's ever been. Not because he looks younger, not because he earns more, but because he finally stopped trying and started being. Now, I want to know, which of these 7 markers hit you the hardest? Which one did you recognize yourself in? Which one made you uncomfortable? Which one made you nod? Because here's the truth. Your answer to those questions is your roadmap. That's where your work is. That's where your real power is waiting. And I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying it's real. And I'm saying it's worth it. In the next part of this journey, if you want to go deeper, I've got something I've been building that goes underneath these 7 markers. It's the actual framework for how to rebuild yourself at 45. The specific practices, the conversations you need to have, the mentality shifts that actually stick. But that's for the community that's serious about this. The men who aren't just watching these videos, but are actually implementing. The men who are willing to look at themselves honestly and build something real. If you're that man, subscribe. Comment one of the 7 markers below. Let me know which one you're going to focus on first and watch for the next part. Because this is the conversation that's supposed to be happening at 45, but nobody's actually having it. We're going to change that. I'll see you in the next one.